You swapped regular bread for gluten-free and felt proud about it. But what if that swap is actually making things worse? Because a lot of those gluten-free products on the shelf aren't clean alternatives. They're processed replacements loaded with ingredients that hit your gut just as hard, sometimes harder. Today we're going through the ones you need to stop buying, the ones that look safe but aren't, and the few that actually hold up. By the end of this, you'll never look at that gluten-free label the same way again. Pull that package off the shelf, see the gluten-free label right on the front, and feel like you made the smart call. But flip it over and read the back. Manufacturers have to replace what gluten actually does in food: the texture, the binding, the shelf life. So they swap in refined starches, seed oils, added sugars, and stabilizers. Your gut doesn't know what to do with. You skipped the weed and walked straight into a different problem. Every product we're about to cover follows the same pattern. Reformulated to look like a safe swap, but the replacement ingredients are doing their own damage. 7 products, and each one has a different trick for hiding it. Number 1. Gluten-free cookies and biscuits. First up, gluten-free cookies. You cut the wheat, you kept the treat, and it feels like a win. It's not. To get that soft, chewy texture that wheat flour normally creates, manufacturers pack these cookies with tapioca starch, rice flour, and canola or palm oil. Then they pile on sugar to cover the flat, gritty taste those starches leave behind. And here's what that means for you. Refined starches digest almost instantly, with no fiber or protein to slow things down. So your blood sugar spikes faster than it would with a regular cookie. The seed oils make it worse. Sunflower and canola oil are high in omega-6 fatty acids, and eating them regularly tips your body toward chronic low-grade inflammation. You paid more for that. Number 2. Gluten-free white bread. Gluten-free white bread is somehow worse than the regular version it replaced, and it comes down to what they had to stuff inside it to hold it together. Wheat gluten works like a structural web in bread, giving it elasticity and lift. Pull that out, and manufacturers plug the gap with xanthan gum or guar gum as a binder, sitting on top of a base of tapioca starch, potato starch, or modified cornstarch. Those gums can be hard on an already irritated gut. The starches are pure refined carbohydrate with no fiber, no protein, and a glycemic index that clears table sugar in some cases. 2 slices and your blood sugar responds like you ate a candy bar. It costs twice as much for that. Number 3. Gluten-free breakfast cereals. Gluten-free cereal sounds like a safe breakfast. It's not. Most of these cereals start with a corn or rice base, which gets forced through a machine at high heat and pressure to make those familiar shapes. That process strips out most of the nutrition and sends the glycemic index through the roof. You're basically eating refined starch in the shape of little rings. Then there's the malt flavoring. That toasted grain taste comes from malt extract, and malt comes from barley, which contains gluten. So some of these cereals are literally flavored with a gluten source. Oats show up in a lot of these too. Marketed as wholesome, but most oats are grown and milled right alongside wheat, so trace gluten follows them into the bag. Number 4. Gluten-free pasta, corn/rice based. Gluten-free pasta feels like the safest swap on this whole list. It's just corn or rice instead of wheat, so how bad can it be? Pretty bad, actually. Corn and rice pasta digest faster than regular wheat pasta because there's no protein or fiber structure to slow things down, so your blood sugar climbs fast and crashes hard. To hold the pasta together without gluten, manufacturers add xanthan gum, mono, and diglycerides or modified starch. And some of those emulsifiers are linked to slow changes in gut bacteria with regular use. Because gluten-free pasta feels lighter and less filling, you eat more of it. So even if the numbers on the label look fine, your real intake is likely higher. Number 5. Gluten-free snack bars/granola bars. Gluten-free snack bars are probably the sneakiest product on this list. They sit right in the health food aisle, surrounded by words like natural and clean. And the packaging looks like something a nutritionist approved. It wasn't. The base is usually oats, Rice Crisps, or puffed quinoa, which sounds fine. But those bases need a binder to hold together, and that binder is almost always brown rice syrup, agave, or glucose syrup. Sugar, basically, often sitting at ingredient number 2 or 3. Brown rice syrup gets marketed as a natural alternative to corn syrup, but its glycemic index runs higher than table sugar, and rice concentrates arsenic from soil during growth. So that natural label is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Number 6, gluten-free frozen meals. Frozen meals are where hidden gluten gets really creative, and gluten-free versions have their own separate problem on top of that. Modified food starch shows up in almost every sauce and gravy in these meals. In the US, it's usually corn-based, but it doesn't have to be, and unless the label says modified cornstarch specifically, you don't actually know what you're eating. Asian-style frozen meals are especially tricky because traditional soy sauce is fermented with wheat. And unless the product uses tamari or a certified alternative, that gluten is still in there. Beyond the gluten question, these meals run high in sodium, use seed oils as the primary fat, and list natural flavors as an ingredient, which can legally cover dozens of undisclosed additives. Number 7, gluten-free crackers and chips. Gluten-free crackers and chips are the most normal-looking snack in that aisle, and they're also where the seed oil problem hits hardest. Rice crackers, corn chips, cassava snacks, they're all naturally gluten-free at the ingredient level, but the oil used to cook them is a different story. Most are fried or baked in canola oil, sunflower oil, or both, and those oils get extracted with high heat and chemical solvents that degrade the fat before the bag even gets sealed. Eat oxidized oils regularly, and you're building up lipid peroxides in your body, compounds linked to cellular inflammation over time. And the gluten risk isn't gone either. Shared fryers and shared production lines mean trace gluten travels, and a manufacturer's label claim doesn't guarantee anything without third-party certification. Every product we just covered was built to replace something else, and that replacement process is where all the damage happens. What you're about to see is different. These 3 options don't replace anything. They don't need gums to hold together, seed oils to stay shelf-stable, or brown rice syrup to taste like food. Gluten was never in them to begin with, so there's nothing to reformulate and nothing to hide. There's no brand to look for here, no certification stamp to hunt down on the package. That's actually the point. When a food doesn't need to sell you on its safety, it's usually because the safety isn't in question. Number 8, whole fruits and vegetables. A piece of fruit doesn't have an ingredient list. A head of broccoli doesn't need a certification stamp. That's not a small thing. Whole fruits and vegetables come with no seed oils, no added sugar, no gums, no emulsifiers. They also bring fiber, and fiber does something none of those processed products can do. It feeds the gut bacteria that keep your intestinal lining intact. For anyone with celiac disease, gluten sensitivity, or just years of processed food damage, that's actually helping your gut repair, not just avoiding more harm. The only real gluten risk with produce comes from restaurant dressings made with malt vinegar or soy sauce. Buy whole, prepare it yourself, and that risk doesn't exist. Number 9, unprocessed proteins, eggs, meat, fish. A plain chicken breast, a piece of salmon, a carton of eggs. None of these have ever contained gluten, and none of them need reformulating to stay that way. The gluten risk with meat and fish comes entirely from what gets added. Marinades with soy sauce, teriyaki sauces fermented with wheat, deli meats packed with wheat-derived dextrin, beef jerky seasoned with soy-based flavorings. Buy the whole, unprocessed version, and every one of those risks disappears at once. Eggs deserve a special mention because they're one of the most nutrient-dense foods you can eat. Complete protein, fat-soluble vitamins, choline for brain function, with zero processing risk when you buy them whole. The butcher counter and fish counter are where your money actually works. The gluten-free aisle is trying to replace that section of the store. It can't. Number 10, whole gluten-free grains. Quinoa, rice, buckwheat. If you want grains, eat actual grains, not a processed product built from grain-derived starches. Cooking a bowl of quinoa and eating a quinoa-based snack bar held together with brown rice syrup are 2 completely different things for your body. Quinoa, white rice, brown rice, and buckwheat are all naturally gluten-free, and when you cook them from whole form, there are no added oils, gums, or sweeteners involved. Buckwheat is worth paying attention to specifically because despite the name, it's not related to wheat at all. It's a seed, it's high in protein, and it cooks in about 15 minutes. The risk with these grains comes from processing, not from the grains themselves. Rice gets processed separately from wheat in most facilities, so cross-contact is low.